Tonight, Toronto's mayor takes her hardest line yet against the police chief's budget demands.
The Toronto police are receiving millions more on the budget. There's no cuts.
The police want $20 million more, or else the chief says the city is at risk. See who else supported Chow today as she argued an $8 million bump is enough.
We're going to make sure that Metrolinx is accountable.
Plus, Chow's deputy mayor talking tough today, too. What Councillor Malik had to say about Metrolinx Ontario line progress.
We're finally seeing the Portlands open up.
I think it's beautiful. It's been a long time coming.
And if you build it, they will come. 2 new bridges now in business at the Portlands. How that will spur on the massive development project. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We begin tonight with an ongoing fight over city funds between the mayor and the police chief that hit a new level today. Chief Demkew says the mayor's proposed $8 million increase for the police is akin to a budget cut, but Mayor Chow is not buying his math. Tyler Cheese has our top story tonight.
Let me set the record straight.
Mayor Olivia Chow is standing by city staff's proposed budget, saying it supports all of the city's emergency services.
Fire, ambulance, police, and the Toronto Community Crisis Response Team that deal with people that have mental health issues.
Adding, the budget even increases police funding and includes 167 new officers for the service this year.
The Toronto police are receiving millions more on the budget. There's no cuts.
Last week, Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew said the budget does not include enough funding to reduce long response times.
Any reduction to our modest, below the rate of inflation ask of 1.7% will present an unacceptable risk to our ability to provide the adequate and effective police services that are required by legislation.
The Toronto Police Association has also been critical of the budget, with Union President John Reid releasing a statement on social media today saying, without the appropriate investment in policing, the current situation will get worse. The budget proposal includes an $8 million increase from last year, but the police force says it needs $20 million to improve response times. But some say that's unnecessary.
Well, certainly the response times are much too long for priority 1 calls. And the question is, why don't police put more resources into it? Why don't they take some of those people who are driving around in patrols that aren't accomplishing anything? Why don't they put those on to priority 1 call responses?
He says the force should be able to address the response time problem by correcting inefficiencies, such as always having 2 officers in a car after dark.
There's lots of resources in the police force to actually reduce those priority 1 calls response times very significantly.
As for Chow, she says she's listening to all feedback on the budget proposal, including ongoing public consultations. She'll release her final version of the budget next week. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, Chow's deputy mayor taking a pointed tone today against Metrolinx. Councillor Asma Malik says there's been encouraging signs the provincial transit agency is taking the city's interests to heart with the Ontario Line subway construction. But the councillor saying today she'll be monitoring the situation very closely, and the local business community says it will be as well. Dale Manukduk has that story.
This Queen Street East barbershop is steps away from where Metrolinx is building the Riverside Leslieville station, part of the 15.6-kilometer Ontario line. The manager is hopeful that the provincial transit agency has learned its lessons from the years delayed and over-budget crosstown LRT.
I think that they've had a lot of time to learn and a lot of time to improve on things, so we're just hoping that it's not the same kind of situation.
A city staff report presented today suggests that's the case.
They want to work with us in the long term for the years to come.
The report says Metrolinx has made strides in community consultation and traffic congestion, among other items.
A lot of encouraging signs that the city's interests and our expectations are being considered with seriousness, and we're going to make sure that Metrolinx is accountable to what our community, our residents, and our local businesses need.
Metrolinx is planning to launch annual funding for impacted BIAs, $10,000 to support marketing initiatives during construction. It's a welcome investment to Glassbox, who says its local BIA is very involved.
They care, right? So it's good. It's good to have people behind them to make their jobs easier, to make our life easier.
Metrolinx is also making good on providing jobs to equity-seeking communities impacted by construction. It held a job fair in Thorncliffe Park today where a station and storage facility are set to go up.
I just graduated a 3-year program at college. I was looking for a full-time secure job, full-time employment, and I feel like this was the perfect place to come to.
What the city and residents are hoping for is a formal workforce development plan, a community benefits agreement, and a comprehensive timeline for the project. CBC Toronto asked Metrolinx if it's on schedule for the 2031 targeted completion date. Metrolinx didn't answer directly, but says it will continue to openly and transparently communicate with local communities as work continues. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, turning next to the epic development project ongoing at the Portlands. 2 new bridges opened today, marking a significant step in what will be one of the most massive neighborhood transformations in Toronto's history. Annam Khan is live at the newly opened Cherry Street North Bridge. Annam, what kind of action have you seen crossing the bridge on this first day of operation?
Well, Chris, right now you're not seeing much action. I did see some people walk and a biker just now, but then again, it's Wednesday night. But earlier today, I saw cars, I saw trucks, I saw buses, I saw people walking with their strollers, with their dogs, and people saying that this brings a much needed opportunity to get across Keating Channel. To go south to places like Cherry Beach, where a lot of people walk their dogs. And Waterfront Toronto is saying that building these bridges, and with these bridges open, it's a major step towards development in this area. Construction on the Portlands continues, and as the massive $1.3 billion project crawls towards completion, the opening of 2 new bridges brings excitement to residents.
We're finally seeing the Portlands open up.
I think it's beautiful. It's been a long time coming.
The new bridges are part of an ongoing project to transform the industrial area to Villiers Island, a landscape with new housing and work opportunities. The new Cherry Street Bridge North crosses the Keating Channel. It's actually 2 bridges, one for drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians, and the other reserved for a future light rail transit extension. The new Commissioner Street Bridge connects Commissioner Street to Don Roadway and is for cars only. In total, Waterfront Toronto says there are 4 new bridges serving the area, part of a bigger plan to reroute the mouth of the Don River.
Those bridges are necessary now because we have a river that needs to be crossed. The river itself is creating Villiers Island. That's a future community that can now be developed because this project has created a protection from the risk of flooding that exists from the Don River.
The bridges and a new lookout, giving curious residents answers to a massive project they haven't really been able to see up close yet. Since construction began at the Portlands Flood Protection Project 7 years ago, a lot of the work being done here has remained a mystery to the public. But today, that changes. Now you can see the work in progress. The work started way back in 2017. The transformation includes 240 hectares of flood protection, digging the Don River, rebuilding new roads, new bridges, and new parks. Waterfront Toronto says flood protection is expected to be completed by the end of this year. Parks expected to open next year, and housing development to follow. Lanrick Bennett has lived in the area for a decade. He calls himself Toronto's bicycle mayor and says this is a game changer.
It really prioritizes vulnerable road users, and that's what so many of us want. And to be able to explore the Portlands, you need to be able to get out to it safely.
See, Chris, it is raining right now, and it has been raining all day. And this is very much in theme with the importance of this work. I was speaking to Waterfront Toronto, and they told me that in the event of a major storm, this entire place would be devastated. So it's not safe to build homes or places for people until the flood protection project is complete. And that's really the crux of this project.
Annam Khan reporting live for us tonight down at the Portlands with that major development project. Thank you, Annam. And with transit projects under construction there at the Portlands and across the city, frankly, buses may be the only option for some to get around in a lot of places for the next little while. Today, the transit advocacy organization TTC Riders held a mock award ceremony dishonoring the city's slowest bus routes.
People aren't willing to switch to transit because it is not reliable enough and service still hasn't been fully restored. Giving more TTC vehicles priority will make Toronto streets work for everyone.
So volunteers dressed up as marathon runners receiving the awards on behalf of the routes. The gold medal, slowest award, went to the 29 Dufferin route. TTC Riders says its average speed is 10 kilometers an hour during peak hours. And people who often take that route told us they're not surprised.
I've rode this bus like every day since grade 9. I'm in grade 11 now. And yeah, it's just very slow.
This bus is well known by all of us as the Sufferin bus instead of the Dufferin bus because it's so slow.
All right, now the silver medal went to 35 Jane bus, averaging a lousy 16 kilometers an hour, while the 60 Steeles West rounded out the group's top 3 with an average speed of 17.5 kilometers an hour. Looking live at Mississauga's Celebration Square this evening. The frigid stretch is over. No wind chill to talk about tonight, but it was a wet day, 1 degree and drizzly right now. Let's get to Victor Paolo with the forecast, and Victor, certainly a soggy one.
Chris, a lot of fog and a lot of rain here in the GTA when it comes to tonight into tomorrow as well too. Now, another thing we're going to be anticipating between the fog and the mist and that rain is it's going to be some freezing rain in some areas close to where we're located. Now, average temperatures time of year, minus 2.4 is your average high, minus 10.9 is your average low. And areas that will be receiving a bit of freezing rain outside of Ottawa, if you're going towards Toronto, from Toronto, if you're going towards Ottawa, that is, Caledon, Oshawa, Newmarket as well will be getting a little bit of sprinkle of that freezing rain, as you do see here earlier in the day towards the overnight. They're going to be getting a little bit of a dusting of freezing rain, but the majority of the GTA will just be getting rain, that is. But tomorrow morning, and my little Emmy and your little ones are getting ready, it is going to be a foggy one, 2 degrees, feels like 0. And taking a look at our 3-day forecast, back-to-back rainy days, and finally a break on Saturday. Stay tuned to Chris and I for the rest of your 3- and 7-day forecast.
Yeah, people will want to see what's coming this weekend. Thank you, Victor. We have an update for you on the stabbing investigation that sent Northview Heights Secondary School into lockdown earlier this week. Toronto police have charged a 17-year-old boy with assault. On Monday, police were called to the scene after reports of a person wielding a machete. It happened just steps away from a high school near Finch and Bathurst. Police say the victim was standing in a parking lot with friends when the accused rushed at them. The victim tried to run away but fell down, and investigators allege the teen then stabbed the victim several times before fleeing the area. The victim suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The Globe and Mail is reporting that 5 members of the 2018 Canadian World Junior Hockey team have been ordered to surrender to police in London, Ontario, to face sexual assault charges. The report says the charges are connected to the alleged assault of a woman after a fundraising event in 2018. The CBC has not independently verified those facts, and London police have not commented on the case, but the service says it expects to hold a press conference on February 5th. The Globe also says 5 players have taken leaves of absence from their current teams. A shortage of foster homes and limited spaces at licensed treatment centers in Ontario have forced high-risk kids to stay in unusual spaces, sometimes for months at a time. Dan Takama has more.
It's often a hotel, an Airbnb. We've used cottages.
For months, that's been the reality for a youth in Belleville who's been bouncing between Airbnbs and hotels since November, while staff with Highland Shores Children's Aid search for a safe place for them to stay. It's not even the most unusual approach being used across Ontario.
Some of my peers in QP have talked about having to repurpose conference rooms and make them bedrooms for children.
The Ontario Association of Children's Aid Societies calls that sort of stay a last resort. But like staff in Belleville, they're increasingly hearing about a lack of placement options.
It feels like we are desperate to find places for kids to meet the needs that they have when they come to us.
Part of the problem is a shortage of foster homes. The Foster Parent Society of Ontario says many shut down during the pandemic, and retiring parents aren't being replaced. CAS staff say it's gone from being a crisis to a chronic problem.
So it is a really daunting situation to be in because our staff and myself in that situation, we're not trained to do that.
Children's aid workers in Belleville say the hotel stays mean logging extra hours in close contact with youth who typically are high risk or have complex needs. The executive director says he worries about what the ongoing problem means for the kids in their care.
You're trying to support them, create some sort of family-based feeling, but you can't really do a lot of home-cooked meals on a kitchenette.
Staff at Highland Shores say they're going to continue searching for a placement for the youth in hopes of finding them a home, not a hotel.
Returning now with a medical procedure that's a first of its kind in Canada. Toronto Sick Kids says a patient with epilepsy was implanted with an electronic device designed to help control seizures. Greg Ross sat down with the medical team to learn more about the incredible medical accomplishment.
For the majority of people living with epilepsy, seizures are controlled by medication.
Dr. Elizabeth Donner is the head of the Division of Neurology at Sick Kids Hospital. She says about 30% of people living with epilepsy are not responsive to drug treatment.
For those people, epilepsy can be very disabling.
Back in August, the Comprehensive Epilepsy Program at Sick Kids treated an 18-year-old patient who was non-responsive to medication with a surgery that has not yet been approved by Health Canada. It involves implanting a responsive neurostimulator in the patient's brain.
RNS has been approved in the U.S. for some time, and there are quite a few centers that are implanting RNS devices into people with epilepsy living in the U.S.
They were able to get approval from Health Canada to use this treatment. Dr. Donner says the RNS device detects brain rhythms in the area where the seizures are coming from.
When that part of the brain has a seizure or has the pre-seizure rhythms that we know will lead to a seizure, the tiny computer will detect that and deliver a stimulus to stop the seizure from occurring.
She says that patient who received RNS treatment in August is seeing improvement 6 months later.
Over time, what we expect to see is a reduction in his seizures. So the pre-seizure rhythms will exist in the brain, the RNS device will deliver a stimulus, and the seizures will not occur.
Earlier this month, the team at Sick Kids performed the same surgery on a second patient after once again getting approval from Health Canada. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
And more excitement at Sick Kids happening just today. Raptors head coach Darko Rajakovic, along with some players, paid a visit to the Children's Hospital.
Just meeting some of the patients, obviously very emotional, but at the same time, very inspirational. The courage of the kids and families is something that's very inspiring.
Spending the day with those, kids who, need somebody to kind of uplift them and, show them that there's better days ahead.
The team mingled with patients, signed autographs, and even played a few games. The visit happening on the same day, Rajakovic and his wife pledged a significant donation to Sick Kids as well as to other hospitals. They'll donate $20 for every assist recorded by the Raptors this season. The final amount will be distributed to all 3 hospitals. The Raps are averaging 29.6 assists per game this season, the second most in the NBA. All right, so the big weather headline today is wet and warm air continues through the rest of the week. Victor Paulo is back with the long-range forecast.
Taking a look at the map of North America here, we'd just like to note that Arctic air mass is moving its way further up north. Well, that's the result of a lot of the milder temperatures that we have here in southeastern Ontario. Speaking of mild temperatures, well, let's take a look at our long-range outlook. As you do see, pretty mild altogether until we get to about Sunday, where that Arctic air mass just dips right back down and cools things off. But not for too long, because as we get later on into the middle of the week, we can see it gets right back to the mild temperatures. Mild like tonight, where it's going to be 2 degrees, feeling like 0. If you do see behind me, it will be foggy, a bit of mist, and it will be a bit of rain falling as well. Now, taking a look at rain totals between now and halfway through the day on Friday, we're expecting around 20 millimeters, 21 to fall here in the GTA, around 30 over in the Windsor region. Now, we're taking a closer look at that weather that's happening. Here's what it's going to be looking like after the show. It's going to be pretty foggy. It's going to be pretty misty, a lot of cloud cover. And we're going to get a break from that precipitation, but not for too long, because right around after your commute home tonight, that's where that second rainfall is going to be coming. Around 15 millimeters is our expected, and you can see it's going to be quite a concentrated amount. Now, when it's all said and done, we should be all said and done about 20 millimeters in total between Thursday and Friday. But then that cloud cover is going to continue all the way through into your weekend. Now, looking at our 3 and 7 day forecast, we talked about Thursday and Friday being wet ones, a bit of a break on Saturday, but then we're going to see the temperature start to drop when we're looking at our Sunday and Monday. But then when it's Tuesday and Wednesday, the temperatures will eventually start to get right back up to those mild Toronto winter temperatures, which we're used to. But the big thing for today and tomorrow is make sure you do stay dry because the rain will be falling, and make sure you look around because it will be hard to see with all of that mist and fog in the air. Have a good night, Toronto. Stay dry. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Victor. We'll be right back. The chase is over. A long, elusive ace of hearts has been pulled, and a couple in New Brunswick is more than $8 million richer.
Oui, monsieur, vous l'avez!
The Chase the Ace lottery came to an end when Danny and Muriel Robbins picked the winner out of a group of 5 cards. The jackpot was $8.2 million, and it's thought to be the largest of its kind in Canada. The Robbins haven't thought about exactly what they'll do with the money, other than splitting it with their son and his girlfriend. Finally tonight, an update on an unusual rescue mission. You might have heard about a wild turkey roaming the streets and weaving through traffic early this week. Well, the fowl is once again back to safety after being snagged just meters away from Highway 401. The Toronto Wildlife Centre got the rescue on camera.
You could probably just chase them down and get them that way, but we've got some tricks up our sleeve. We brought a mirror because they can be quite distracted by just kind of seeing the reflection of themselves. So lots of ideas, but we'll just have to see when we get there.
Give me a sheet.
What a catch. Residents say the turkey had been wandering around the neighborhood for months, with some worrying that the bird had been injured. But after a vet check up at the Wildlife Center, the turkey was cleared as strong and healthy. And in a matter of hours, the bird was set free into the wild. All right, and that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.